You are listening to the Wannabe Collective, your new variety podcast featuring every fandom that you could possibly think of. On the Wannabe Collective, all wannabes are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome, everybody. Greetings and salutations to all. You are listening to Keeping It Real from Wannabe Critic Productions, and I am Gabriel Fast. Joining me, I have two other hosts with me. We have one Mikey Collins and one Ryan Dalton. Mikey, how you feeling, bro?
Good. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. It's been a while since we podcasted, but I'm excited to get back into it. Ryan, how you feeling?
Yeah.
Nerdy. I'm ready to go.
Same. Yeah, I literally
I got all this pin up nerd energy that that I never get to talk about this stuff in depth with anybody here. So
yeah,
this is great.
He's like, I'm just alone with my thoughts 90% of the time. So, aren't we all? Mikey, sorry I cut you off for a second. What'd you say?
No, it's just I always think about that after I say I'm good and I ask how you are doing. I could totally help you at the beginning of every episode. And I was like, how are you guys doing? And then everybody, and then you're always like, nobody helps you with the intro ever.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be kind of nice if literally whenever I ask someone, it could almost be like a running joke, be like, hey, Mikey, how you doing? I'd be like, I'm good, Gabe. Brian, how you doing? Just like each person introduce the next person.
Pass the baton.
Yeah, exactly. Literally. No, as you can tell by the title, we're here tonight. We're going to be talking about The Incredible Hulk from 2008. I feel like it feels weird. Yes, this is, I guess if you want to get technical, this is a movie review, but it feels weird to review a movie that is kind of old, but really not that old. And I was saying something before we got started. I was about to say something. I was like, oh, I'll save it for the podcast. It's kind of crazy to me how each time I revisit MCU movies that I thought were bad, they keep getting better to me. Every time I watch them, and it's not wow, this is a masterpiece, but it's just I don't hate this as much as I did the last time I watched it. And I think that's saying a lot because I just watched Hulk, The Incredible Hulk and Thor a year and a half ago with my wife. So I don't know. I'm excited to talk about it. Tonight we're talking about The Incredible Hulk, as I said before. It came out in June 13th, 2008. Technically, this is supposed to be, I guess it is the second movie, in the, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We were actually talking about release order in terms of the order of Marvel releases. We had Iron Man first, Incredible Hulk second, Iron Man 2, and then Thor. So we're kind of covering those first four pretty close together. We messed ourselves up a little bit by, reviewing Iron Man and Iron Man 2 back to back, but it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. We're just going to have a general discussion about this, ladies and gents. So we're not really going to be catching up really. If you want to go see what some of us are doing, you can go check out the Wannabe Critic podcast, where there's something more recent, but even then we've been posting less and less. I want it to be really fun every time I sit down to do one of these, and I want it to I don't want it to feel obligatory just because it has become a routine type thing, as it had before, because that rubs off. And obviously I don't want to seem like I'm just trying to do something just to get it done, because then everyone else is well, then why, this is supposed to be fun. Why are we, why am I even here? But I'm excited to talk about this one, and I'm excited to do it with you gentlemen. So who wants to do the honors of recapping what this movie's about?
I can do it.
Yeah, you do
Ryan.
it. Bruce Banner is the Hulk. He wants to be left alone. People don't leave him alone, and he smashes things because they're dumb and don't leave him alone.
The end.
Hulk in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's the plot really is so simple. But I have to say, I feel like me and Emma ragged on this movie hard a year and a half ago. And I think I've just kind of come to grips with the fact that given everything, the fact that it was so early in the MCU's career, or the MCU's, it was very much in its infancy. I don't think it's that bad.
No. And I don't, I'm, me and my synopsis is halfway joking. I don't mean it to say that it's a bad movie, because I don't think it is. I just think it's a fairly, it's a basic plot, but it's also the sophomore effort from a very fledgling independent studio, who is just trying to get on his feet. And I think didn't want to take a lot of chances with Hulk, because they were already taking a huge chance with Iron Man. And so, yeah, it's a little bit safe, but it's also fun. And I think for what's essentially an early independent studio's attempt, pretty good, for a action movie. And yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, it you could definitely see the MCU has grown up since then.
Oh yeah.
But I still enjoyed it.
Yeah. Mikey, you have anything to add to that?
I mean, yeah, I like it. Yeah, I guess when I think about it, they did play it pretty slick.
So you said you liked this movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
and you didn't like the 2003 Hulk, which I don't know anyone that did.
Man, I remember when I was a kid, that's when I watched that one, and I mean I enjoyed it because I was a kid. I don't remember the story that much, but
Right.
I remember it fondly just from flashes that I have of that movie. And I remember not hating the guy who portrayed Hulk as much as everybody else did. The movie wasn't great, but I actually kind of liked that actor, and I still see him and stuff from time to time.
I didn't mind him at all. In fact, I thought it's one of those cases where I don't blame any of the actors.
Yeah.
I think it was a good cast, and they all did their best. It was just a terrible script and a director who had no respect for the source material.
Yeah, and the last thing I heard you say, Ryan, after I cut out for a second, you said something like, "You're wrong twice."
Yeah, he was wrong because, for one, he what did I say? I don't remember. Did it record me when I was saying that?
Yeah. I think it did, but
yeah, it might still have your audio. And so
he's wrong about what the fans wanted, and he was wrong about like what he should have done with the movie. And it's a shame, because in other things he's been a great director, but with that he was just the absolute wrong guy for that. So yeah, I was very glad that this one was much better, and this one also had a killer cast. I mean, a stacked cast with really, really good actors. So yeah, I think that was also a great idea, and they did the same thing with Iron Man, is that and Thor, they stacked the cast with there's some newbies, but there's also some people that you're like, oh wow, Marvel got them, cool.
Yeah, I agree, and we'll definitely talk about that more in our Thor review. Because I have a lot to say about Natalie Portman. It's kind of interesting because something you just said about Hulk, which I would not consider. I would consider myself to be a very casual Hulk fan. Like, I've read some of the comics, and I don't know. I think Hulk doesn't really get enough love, in my opinion, like across the board, because there are stories where, like, obviously he draws his power from becoming angry, right? You wouldn't like me when I'm angry type thing. Well, there's plenty of stories where he relishes like staying that way. Like, he enjoys hurting other people. He enjoys doing bad things. Like, one of the most like heinous, just vile depictions, in my opinion, is the Hulk and his offspring from Old Man Logan, where it was just like, holy crap, but there's texture,
that comic was an abomination. I don't count that among any kind of canon.
Really?
Whoa.
Yep.
Man, that makes me sad. I love that story.
I hate it very specifically for what they did to Bruce Banner.
By making him evil.
But yeah, by making him that, just what they did with him was like,
he's the bad guy, ladies and gentlemen.
That's the absolute dumbest way you could have approached that character in the end, and I have no respect for it. I would tell the writer that to his face.
Yeah, that's interesting, because like I said before, like I'm a pretty casual Hulk fan, and there's been other stories, especially like I was just in Barnes and Noble the other day, like flipping through some like graphic novels. I was like looking to add some things to my collection, and I was like flipping through a couple of the books and I was like, holy crap. Like Hulk's being a real douche right now, for lack of a better word. And I was like, and I think that might be why I kind of come back full circle to Old Man Logan, the original run of that is because I would just remember being just so shocked that they made him that way, and I would never really consider Old Man Logan to be canon anyways, because it's just, there's so many liberties taken, like with everything, not just Hulk. Like one of the coolest panels, in my opinion, from that comic is like watching, they're trying to get their plan together. Kate Bishop's like trying to do all this stuff. And then they go to this place where people are praying and like they're praying to Thor's hammer, like hoping that the heroes are going to come back type thing. And I don't know what, I thought it was just kind of, there were cool things about that comic that struck me whenever I read it when I was like, 15, 16 type thing. But I have very limited Hulk knowledge. And I think very early on, you could have done it in this movie too. Like you could have shown Hulk not necessarily relishing what he's doing and being self-aware, but noticing that he's going to hurt people, which I guess they did kind of show you that scene in the very beginning, like where he does hurt, what's her face? What's her name? His girlfriend, Liv Tyler's character, whatever her name is. Betty. Yeah. But anyways, I wanted to kind of get into a question I had written down with that kind of in mind. Like, do Hulk fans like this movie? Like, do they think like this is a good movie or like a good live action, like representation of, are someone out there going to be like, this is my Hulk type thing?
Well, I'm a fan of the Hulk comics and I enjoyed the movie. I see it as kind of a cross between some of the classic, like the very early kind of classic comics and the TV show, which there was definitely some DNA from the Bill Bixby 80s TV show in the movie, which I don't mind, because that TV show was actually, for kind of a cheesy 80s show, quite good. So yeah, I see it as a little bit of a hybrid, and I think was a pretty clever way to wade into their adaptations. And what better way to kind of learn how to do your adaptations than to take a character who was already adapted successfully into a TV show and kind of meld that with what you had in some of the original comics.
Yeah. I have to ask, like, on both fronts, so like Edward Norton versus Mark Ruffalo. Like
Ruffalo.
We all love Ruffalo more, right?
Edward Norton.
Are you serious?
I would, dude.
Nothing against Norton. The dude is, I mean,
he's a classically trained actor. I mean,
yeah,
he's
I would
incredible.
never criticize his acting. The dude's an amazing actor. I think Ruffalo embodies the Banner character much better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it's nothing against. It's just different interpretations. I think Ruffalo's interpretation is better. That's just it.
My thing with it is just like I feel like we missed out on some acting that we could have seen between like RDJ and just like in those scenes where they're all together. I feel like because not Norton. I always forget that Hulk's name.
Ruffalo.
What's his name? Ruffalo. He kind of falls flat for me sometimes. Where
He's
I'm just like,
Tony. Oh, Thanos is coming and he's bad, Tony. Like,
no, just like I just remember in the first Avengers, like I just didn't like him at all. I like that. There's literally nothing, even in Endgame or not Endgame, Infinity War, when you're like, it's like all coming. I'm like, I still don't understand why you're here besides Hulk. I don't know. It's. I don't know. He's always frustrated me. I love that actor though. I see him in plenty of other stuff. I'm like, he's a great actor. I just don't get what they're having him do with Hulk. I don't know.
Well, and I think too, like for me, I love Edward Norton. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think he's one of the best actors ever. Honestly, like the dude can play some serious roles, and he can also be funny. Like, he can do a lot.
Yeah.
I think I was thinking to myself, what would a solo Hulk movie look like with Ruffalo? And I think for me, I come back to how much range does this guy have as an actor? He has some for sure, but I kind of get what you're saying. He's kind of the same dude and everything.
Even not in Marvel stuff.
And that's not to say he's a bad actor. Yeah, exactly. It's just like 13 going on 30. I'm like, Bruce, like
exactly.
It's the same dude. I feel like if he was to have his own show or his own movie, even, I feel like it would be something like kind of akin to like Ant-Man and Ant-Man, or even like Doctor Strange, the first Doctor Strange, because the second one sucked.
Yeah.
But like, I think, and this is sad to say, I think Edward Norton would be the more interesting solo movie guy. Like I would have loved to have seen him like
imagine a sequel
to this. I know, it would have been great.
It would have been amazing.
But I feel like in terms of playing that buffer character, they did that perfectly, in my opinion, like with Hulk and the MCU. And I don't think Edward Norton would have been able to fill that, because he is very much like the theater style actor where it's like, I'm here, you're paying attention to me now. Like, and it's very just striking. It's a very striking acting style. And anything he does, like every single thing that he does, even, for the time this came out, I feel like a lot of people considered this to be a bad movie, myself included, like for years. Yeah. But the thing I always said about it was, yeah, but freaking Edward Norton, man. He's so good. Like he's always memorable. And I don't know that I can say that for Mark Ruffalo. Now, granted, we've never really gotten to see Mark Ruffalo have the spotlight. I mean, in Thor Ragnarok a little bit, but that wasn't really Mark Ruffalo. That was Hulk, So I don't know. I think
he was playing Hulk.
That
was all him. In fairness.
Yeah. When
he did the mocap, he did the voice.
And now, so that brings me to my second question: is would it have been weird to see, like, would we have been happy to see Edward Norton turn into the MCU version of the Hulk? Because I think this version of Hulk in this movie looks freaking stupid. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. Like,
man,
I mean, it's tough because he does look like the old school Lou Ferrigno. Like Hulk, I feel like
didn't bother me. I liked it just fine. I don't think I prefer one over the other. Actually, I think their CGI has gotten better.
That's true. Sure. Yeah, it's weird though to me. Like when I look back at Avengers, why does this Hulk look better than that one? Like, is that just me?
I think he was animated differently, and the way I think of it, it's like two different comic artists.
I guess so.
They approach it in different ways. That's also true. A lot of what he was doing, like his big fight scenes and everything in this movie were at night, which gathers a lot of errors. You didn't get a lot of day shots, so your imagination fills in a lot of the blanks. I do think there was a quality to his skin that they gave him in this movie that was interesting.
That sheen.
The sheen, which is interesting to look at.
It made him look like a lizard.
They went a little more naturalistic with the
very,
following
very
Hulk's,
muted. Yeah.
Which is probably the more correct way to do it and fits in better with the other MCU stuff. But I do think he was interesting to look at in his own way in this movie. Didn't bother me.
I always look at his teeth. Like whenever I see this movie, like I'm always like drawn to how big his teeth and how far apart, like how big the gaps are in between his teeth. I'm like,
that's one of the big parts I like, because like it makes you think of the just comic book pictures of Hulk. His teeth are always like completely spaced out and just like strong. They look like really bricks. Strong. Yeah, dude. I'm like, okay, that looks like Hulk. I don't know. That's just always something I've thought about. I was like, man, what if they did just continue the character model? I think it would have been cool, but I get that they had to change.
Yeah.
But I think each director, I think they approach it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that, like, I don't know if I use the word hate. It just doesn't do anything for me for this design. I don't think it's bad, obviously. Like, and I could see why people like it, especially like he looks so yoked. Like,
dude, I love the ripples, bro.
The splits in his pecs. I'm like,
yes,
God, that guy just dry scooped like 3 scoops. Made a steroid sandwich and called it a day. But like literally whole bottles of steroids. He's just crunching the bottles as he eats it. Yeah. Okay, well that answers a few of my questions for sure. I liked how there's a couple of nods, like. at one point they talk about, or in Thor, they actually talk about, well, I guess we'll save that one, but they were basically alluding to the super soldier serum, right, in this movie. And then the villain, he obviously takes that. And I didn't realize that at first. I was like, or it was like they tried to remake it. It wasn't some of the original stuff that Captain America had, right? Go ahead.
Well, they used at least the Captain America serum as a base. I don't know if they tried to modify it. I don't remember, honestly. But yeah, obviously, if they tried to use the exact same stuff, that was not smart. But if they tried to modify it, they obviously did it wrong. Yeah. But I remember I that was one of the things I really liked, because it was like, okay, they're actually doing what they said they were going to do, and I'm seeing threads of a shared universe that I think are going to pay off, and that was very exciling to me.
Yeah, whenever you saw him just like sprinting ahead of everyone, I was like,
dude,
I was like Leonardo DiCaprio whistle. I was like, that's what Chris Evans does. I was like, oh man, like that was pretty rad that they thought of that. And then whenever he just decides to go toe to toe with Hulk, again, you kind of got that feeling like, holy crap. If someone else has this, you know, we're like, it's like, it makes sense. Captain America makes sense. Black Panther makes sense. Like it all kind of makes sense.
Even General Ross was like, holy crap, it's working.
Dude, yeah. Yeah. Which, RIP to that dude. I think he died last year, or maybe it was this year.
Did. Just this year, I think.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it kind of sucks.
Which is a shame.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
I like him.
Awesome actor. And man, he normally plays more, at least that I remember, more sympathetic roles, and him playing such a D-bag in this movie, I thought he really embodies that character really well.
I always see him in my mind as in a different movie, but I can never place him.
He's in The Village, which is one of my favorite movies.
Resident Evil?
No, The Village.
Oh.
How did you get that? How did you get Resident Evil from The Village? Oh my God, good stuff.
Sorry.
So I was watching this movie. Obviously, we can all agree we don't, dislike this movie. It is like, it's like you were saying, it's kind of like fledgling. It honestly, I don't know why it reminds me of The Amazing Spider-Man. Lots of good content, lots of like a really good base for a lot of like interesting ideas and like cool things, and a little safe for sure, but the action was good. Somebody tell me why Liv Tyler, which I would not consider to be like an S-list actress by any means.
Have you seen Armageddon? What are you talking about?
Oh my God. I want to know why her and Edward Norton have better chemistry, and why I actually am mad that I didn't get to see more of that.
They were great, and
they were good.
She was a great Betty, and it was a breath of fresh air after the old Hulk movie, where, and I don't blame the actors for this, but it was that to me is all director, where the Betty role with Jennifer Connelly was very, very flat and kind of emotionless, and just really like bad, understated in the wrong way, where it was just like, just not well done. Again, you don't blame the actors for that kind of thing. That's all direction. But I like that they let Liv Tyler have some life, and really brought personality to Betty. And you could understand why those two were together. I really enjoyed their scenes.
Yeah, I did too. And I think it's really, it was interesting to me more than anything, because it was almost like they were kind of treating it like this is kind of their only shot in a way. I don't know, like let's really ham this up, like, because Edward Norton has said on the record before, like, yeah, I was never gonna be the superhero guy ever. Like that was never in the cards. He's like, whenever they were telling me, I think it was on a Rogan episode, he was like, when they told me they had this like big idea, I was like, I am out. Like I signed on to do one. That's all I'm doing. No thanks.
I thought I heard another interview where he like thought about it, but then he had like a bunch of theater stuff lined up, and he's like, I can't.
Well, I think part of it is that he expects to be very collaborative script wise and story wise.
Yeah.
And with the MCU, you're just not going to do that as much, I think, as he wanted to, which I completely respect that. If that's his that's his process and that's how he wants to work. When you're joining a machine, you just have to know that you're giving up some autonomy.
Yeah.
And it's largely like, we kind of have this joke that, amongst us, our friends, and anyone who like watches a lot of movies, like will agree there's a difference between a movie and a film, even though all movies are film. Like
the theater.
Yeah. Well, do it live. And I think you really hit it on the head. And I think you are right, Mikey. Like there was a lot of things kind of like keeping him from wanting to do more, but he ultimately came back down to the decision of like, not only do I have so much going on, but yeah, I'm not going to be this superhero guy. This isn't what this isn't what I want, And I think ultimately movies are fun and can have a lot of weight to them, but I don't think Edward Norton does a lot of movies. I think Edward Norton does mostly films. If you look at his filmography that he's done, I mean, some pretty serious roles. Of course, he played the bad guy in The Italian Job. He was the Incredible Hulk, but he does some paycheck jobs. Yeah, for sure.
Between, I think, the stuff he wants to do.
Yeah, I agree. But I think about the people they chose to be in the MCU. Well, I would have loved, and honestly, Universal is freaking dumb for not doing what Sony is doing, in my opinion, and saying, hey, why don't we just make some stuff? Like we'll have our version, you can have your version, like let's do the same thing. Like, why doesn't that
Universal
work?
Doesn't own any rights anymore, I don't think.
I think even back then.
Well, yeah, mostly, like back then, but I thought Universal, are they losing their rights, or I thought they still did have exclusive rights
to Hulk?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in the MCU movies.
Yeah, and they would have a cut.
There are some limitations to this point for what Marvel can do with him. That's why we didn't get another solo movie, actually. So there may be some solo movie rights that Universal's retained.
Yeah,
but they're obviously not exercising it.
That's annoying.
I actually think they're smart not to exercise it. Just let Marvel do it. I mean, I don't think Sony's a good example because they're doing some good things, but they're also taking some huge missteps.
Mostly bad things.
Basically, they have Into the Spider-Verse is their one offshoot success.
So
that there's the one offshoot success they've had post MCU.
Yeah.
Everything else they've tried to do. I mean, the first Venom was fine. I mean, it was kind of fun in a dumb popcorn way.
Yeah.
But I mean, Morbius is getting just absolutely hammered,
dude.
And all these other things are like nobody's gonna go see a Kraven the Hunter movie.
I forgot about that.
And I doubt anyone's gonna see a Madam Web movie.
That one might be interesting.
Well, and I'm more.
They're making very dumb choices.
Yeah, and I think within, just to be clear too, I'm not saying. And by the way, Universal does still own distribution rights for Hulk.
That's
distribution,
crazy.
Right?
Yeah, distribution. So,
but that's not filmmaking rights. That's,
right.
That's different.
But that means that they still get a cut of all their like toys and like.
I think it would
hard copy, right?
I think, and I could be wrong. I mean, there's so many intricacies in Hollywood. I could be wrong. I think it only applies to solo movies.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Which is one of the reasons there hasn't been a solo movie for him, and instead they essentially played out his arc embedded in other movies.
Thor, and all that.
And like in when he ends up as Smart Hulk in Endgame, and all of that. All of that stuff was embedded in existing movies as opposed to doing it in his own.
Loophole.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and that's kind of what I was talking about, which I just looked up the definition of a distribution right. It says refers to a copyright holder's exclusive right to sell, lease, or transfer copies of the protected work to the public. So, I mean, that has to play some factor into why not more stuff. It just makes no sense. Like one of the biggest Hulk fans I know, like I ask him all the time, like, who's your favorite Marvel hero? Without hesitation, every time he says it's Hulk.
Doug
loves Hulk. And I know that there's so many, like you go to all these bookstores, there is tons of Hulk stuff out there, tons of Hulk material, Maestro. I mean, there's all kinds of good stuff.
And there's some really good
pull
stuff
from. And
there's some great stories.
Yeah. And I just, especially, the element of duality, it's like, okay, Peter Parker is Spider-Man and we want to root for him because he's supposed to be relatable. Well, sorry, the only Spider-Man I've ever related to has been Tobey Maguire because he was a freaking nerd. Whereas Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland are relatively like good looking guys. And I don't think I was ever really like good looking with pimples and stuff growing up. So
I think that's
why
I relate to them so much, just because I'm so devastatingly
That's why Thor is my favorite character, guys.
Yeah,
because I really see myself holding that hammer.
I mean, I do see it.
Mirror.
I do see it as a missed opportunity because everyone gets angry, and everyone gets angry about similar things, and I just feel like they're really missing like a lot of opportunity to like tell an interesting story beyond, you know, Hulk and Smart Hulk. And I think I remember reading something as to like Universal was part of the reason why they basically weren't letting Marvel Hulk out, so to speak, at one point in time. I feel like it was around like 2015, 2016, because that would have been Ragnarok time, I think. I need to do some more research. But I remember there being something wonky with Universal. And like, I don't know. I just see it as a big a missed opportunity. And I'm not saying take a Hulk property and do everything Hulk. I'm saying give us something other than She-Hulk, like that's coming to Disney Plus. Like I'll still watch it. Don't get me wrong. But I mean,
good cast. I like Tatiana Maslany. I think she'll do a good job.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But anyways, that's my soapbox. I feel like there's something there, but unfortunately the time may have passed. Like you had your opportunity to tell the Planet Hulk storyline and you basically already did. So
I don't know how it would work now.
I mean, I would love to see it. Gabe, you dropped out there for a second.
Yeah, I dropped out. I was, you know, what was the last thing you heard?
Well, Mikey was asking me if I like the way it's going now or if I'd prefer, you know, solo movies. I enjoy what's happening now because I think it's better than nothing.
For sure.
I think they still have managed to do some fun stuff with him. I would have loved. I mean, he couldn't do it now because they already kind of cannibalized some of it for Ragnarok. But I would. Oh man, a 2-part, a 2-movie like saga of Planet Hulk.
I know. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And then World War Hulk.
Oh man,
could have been one of the biggest things they've ever done.
Literally.
But if Universal is the one that prevented that, that's more on them than it is on Marvel. That if you could really do the Planet Hulk story justice and then follow it up with the World War Hulk movie, that could have been so ridiculously epic. I mean, you essentially could have had him as like the Phase 4 villain. I mean, you wouldn't have needed to go anywhere else because the entire world would have been in danger.
Oh, imagine.
And it just would have been awesome. The other thing you'd have to wrestle with that is that would require some version of the Illuminati, and the MCU doesn't really have them in 616. I mean, they introduced them and then murdered them in Doctor Strange 2.
Allegedly.
Well, I mean that version's that universe is Illuminati.
Yeah.
Oh, that movie was so bad.
I'm like actually getting mad just thinking about it.
I was like, don't bring it up.
Like,
all right. After we stop recording, I'm gonna vent for just like 2 minutes about that movie.
And I'm mad at myself for going into Doctor Strange and Multiverse like with good expectations because the fact of the matter, like
I enjoyed the first one.
I love the first one. Like the first one is not bad, and I loved WandaVision too. And it's like let's save our ranting session for us. We're getting
back to Hulk.
So
I'm enjoying what we've got because it's what we have, and I think for what they can do with him, they did a pretty good job. Would I have done a few things different? Sure, but there's a lot that I've enjoyed. Having said that, in an alternate universe, a Planet Hulk series would have been ridiculous.
Yeah, unfortunately, especially I just think about like the opportunity to like make him the villain for maybe just a little bit, you know, like half of a phase, and maybe something catastrophic happens and he feels terrible, but he still wants to do the right thing. So then whenever Thanos comes and he's all disheveled and he's fighting Thanos, like there's actually like a visual representation, like his hair's longer, like there's a reason why he's not fighting like as good as he should be fighting. And I remember like watching like Infinity War and being like, oh yeah, get it, Hulk, you know, every fight goes toe to toe with Thanos. But I remember kind of being like let down because we'd never really seen him do anything like that ever. and then he loses. So, and then they neutered him in the second one. But anyways, I'm just saying there's plenty of things that they could have done differently. I'm sure Universal did have some say. In fact, I know they did have some say because there's some sort of deal similar to Sony, but they get an ultimate say on how much Hulk we get to see, which is probably why we saw Ruffalo in the Hulkbuster suit for so much towards the end there. But either way,
savor it.
Yeah. And we're kind of getting into my last question. Like, what would we want out of like a Hulk movie if we had it? Like, I kind of agree with Ryan. Like, I would want a Planet Hulk storyline, honestly, more than anything, just because it's cool.
That to me in the last 20 years is the quintessential Hulk story.
Yeah. What's the only other way I think they could have did it if it wasn't a solo movie is what's that storyline where Hulk ends up in Asgard and tries to like wipe everybody out, but he's actually like taken over by Loki, and like he actually ends up he gets so mad he's able to lift Mjolnir without being worthy. That's just how strong he is at the moment. You guys remember that?
I know what you're talking about, and I can't place what it is.
It was really cool.
I don't remember. Oh, fun fact, and I haven't read the series, but I just read a snippet, so I don't know how true it is. But apparently, whoever's writing Hulk now has given Hulk a Hulk. So apparently, there is a Hulk squared version that, when he gets angry enough, emerges.
Super Saiyan God.
I was like 9,000.
Like Super Saiyan Hulk. Like Super Saiyan Hulk, yeah. Which I'm morbidly curious about to see if it could be well done or it could be super cheesy. I'm really curious.
I was gonna say it sounds cool.
I mean, it makes sense, honestly. Like, and this isn't meant to say like, Kevin Feige's an idiot or anything, because obviously he's not. Like, the MCU is the most successful film anything of all time, like ever. It's made the most money, like collectively. It's kind of crazy. Give him a reason to like fight for Hulk, and I just don't really think there's a lot there coming out currently, or at least in the past 4, 5, 6 years. Nothing that I've personally heard of, but I know that there's fans of it. You know what I mean? But it's like, make it blatantly obvious that it's like we have to make this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm kind of waiting for that thing to happen, because eventually they're going to run out of stuff to do if they don't introduce the X-Men soon, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And most of it is going to be shows. And I mean, I know that they're exploring a lot of cool characters, like within those TV shows. Like, the fact that we have a Miss Marvel show is pretty cool.
Yeah.
She-Hulk, obviously, like Loki, I'm sure is coming back for another season. Like, there's plenty of kind of side stuff to do.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, am I alone in kind of thinking that we've kind of worn ourselves thin with the characters we have currently?
I don't think so. I feel like they still have some stories to tell with the original, cast. And I honestly, it from my point of view, what I'm seeing as She-Hulk, and especially after what we talked about now, they're probably going to test the waters. And that's the whole reason they're making that show, of being like, because after this movie, I'm sure they got a little like apprehensive about making another one, because a lot of people don't like it, Yeah. And so maybe they're like, maybe if this show does well, all you Hulk fans watch it, because if you want to see a movie, that's probably what they're going to take the numbers from.
Yeah. Well, and I just envision they have a big expo, the next Disney expo. They're like, all right, Hulk fans, Kevin Feige's talking. Imagine it. Imagine the scene. He's like, all right, Hulk fans, you guys ready for some Hulk stuff? He's like, I want to introduce her having had this up. And then he brings Kathleen Kennedy out. Could you imagine? He's like,
it's Tim Roth.
Hey guys. Yeah.
He's smarter than that.
No, I know. I'm just kidding. I think, and that's kind of the point, is like, they're not going to do anything Hulk related unless
like
they know,
like
unless they know it's going to thrive. And I guess like saying spread ourselves thin with the characters we have. I mean, I want to be excited about the MCU again. Now it just kind of feels like, I'll watch it. Like, I want to see what happens, but I'm not like actively thinking about it. You know what I mean? And that may be some fatigue kind of setting in, but I don't know.
Well, it's just normal to have them out now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's never going to feel exactly like it did at first.
Yeah.
But I do think you can still have pops of that excitement when you see things they're leading up to, or they're having stuff you didn't expect, or they're, going with storylines that you like and bringing in new characters. And sometimes it's just, if you put characters that you already know who haven't been in the room together, if you put them in the room together, sometimes really cool, interesting stuff can happen. So sometimes it's as simple as just remixing the teams. I think they've been writing these characters for 60 plus years. They're not in any danger of running out of storylines.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say they got so much.
It's just finding like that chemistry, right? That like the MCU has a chemistry to it. And I think if they can kind of recreate that, which I think is what they're kind of trying to do right now, is like figure out a way to make it make sense for us to have, like, I love whenever you go to literally any run of Marvel Comics, pretty much, especially like 1990-ish and onward. Like you open up the book and it shows you like in a window pane style. It's like, okay, this is who's in this one. Like this is so-and-so as Iron Man because Iron Man died. Like, this is what we're going with for this story. Like they make it to where it's very easy to kind of follow what's happening, or the easiest they can make it follow what's happening, because there is so much content out there, but yeah, I just want to be like, and it's unfair to expect like end game level content every single time. And I'm not, it's tough whenever you one up yourself so many times. And it's like, all right, then you release something that's like, well, frick, I didn't like that one very much. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you just have to enjoy the journey. And then there's always going to be misses, and there's always, there's going to be hits and misses, but I take that as a sign of like, if you're trying things and you're taking chances, you're going to have some misses. That's just the cost of, trying to do something.
Cost of doing business, boys.
Yeah. I did read today, who knows if it'll bear out, but that the rumor is that they're bringing in Daredevil for the Echo series along with Kingpin.
Saw that. Vincent D'Onofrio.
Which, and they are already, had Matt Murdock and Spider-Man and everything. So to me, bringing in, and they also on Disney Plus renamed the Jessica Jones series quietly. They retitled it AKA Jessica Jones, which is the actual comic book series title.
Oh, cool.
Which to me indicates, I wonder if they're going to do more with her.
Man, I like that character.
Holy
That'd
crap.
be so cool.
If great, Luke Cage is great. And if they and Daredevil, and Daredevil to me, it's a no-brainer bringing him in. Everybody loves him, and Kingpin especially. So yeah, there's a lot they can do.
If they introduce the X-Men soon too, that's always been like a huge rivalry, Wolverine versus Hulk. So they could be waiting to tell,
goodness,
like introduce that dynamic, like a little.
Imagine the best cameo ever of Hugh Jackman and Hulk in another dimension fighting, and they just cut away from it.
That'd be God, amazing. I would be so happy.
If I were them, I would wait a good long time before I bring in the X-Men. A long time.
Yeah.
There's so much.
It makes no sense for them to come in right now. They have so many other things they could do.
There's so much else they can do. They don't need them.
Yeah.
And I think wait until
it's gonna be into this phase or the next.
I think maybe even the end of the next one. I don't think there's any reason to bring them in right now. You've got enough content. They're already leading up to Secret Wars, for ending this phase. I think you need to wait long enough so that there are as few comparisons as possible.
Yeah.
Now, there were a lot of terrible X-Men movies that were made, but there were a lot of great casting. There was a lot of great casting. Dude. So you have to more than the stories. You have to get distance from roles that have become iconic, from Patrick Stewart as Xavier, from Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Those are pretty much the only two.
Halle Berry as Storm's a pretty big one.
Yeah, not iconic though. You're kidding, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your face. You're all.
Do you know what happens? Do you know what happens to a toad that gets struck by lightning? And we're all like, the same thing that happens to everything else.
Man.
Oh, come on. That wasn't
Terrible.
cool at all.
She has She has a line that's worse than that, and I know we're way off topic, but and it's not in that movie. It's in, I think, the third one. Yeah, it's in where they have the cure that they bring out, and Rogue is like, "Have you heard there's a cure?" And she's like, "No, there's nothing wrong with you." Well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with you. You can make clouds. This girl kills everyone she touches, and you think you're the same. Yeah. It's the dumbest thing. It's one of the dumbest lines ever uttered.
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty terrible. All right, gentlemen. I think the new rating system should be a pretty simple one. I've decided I am going to build a Blu-ray collection, like a legit one. I bought some shelves.
Are we Jeremy Johns?
We're Jeremy Johns in this. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna rip him off. We're gonna rip him right off. I already stole the intro to the show from Sacred Symbols, because they always say greetings and salutations, and I really like.
I thought you were talking about his intro.
Oh no.
Okay, I was like, whoa.
But anyways, you're an idiot. I would buy this on Blu-ray if it was under $10 for sure.
Sure. Yeah, I think I own the Blu-ray.
Yeah. So.
Man, I don't know, because for me, I'm a little more picky. I still have like an old collection. I don't even have any Blu-rays. I just have old DVDs. Even if I saw this in the bin, because I can watch it digitally for $3 whenever I want to on any rental thing, I don't know if I'd pick it up. It's a good movie, but I don't know if it's worth having a physical copy, in my opinion.
I hear you.
Just because it doesn't.
Understandable.
I like the movie. Don't get me wrong, but it seems how they basically pretend like this movie basically doesn't exist for the whole universe. I wouldn't pick this one up unless it was just like in a pack with other movies. Yeah, it never would be.
I think I'm gonna buy like the Infinity Saga like Blu-ray collection or something like that. It's expensive, but I think it would look kind of cool in the stew. I think. Mm-hmm. I think this movie is pretty safe and harmless. Like, there's nothing egregious that I can really notice. And I think it may just be because I was more watching it for fun this time, So
shout out to the classic 80s Hulk theme that they snuck into one scene.
Yeah,
that made my geek heart leap. That was great. that was like one of those. It was like when the first of these Spider-Man came out. The opening music is the orchestrated version of the old cartoon theme song. Oh, yeah. And I literally like gasped and pointed at the screen, and everyone around me was like, "What?" Like, it's totally wasted on you guys.
Yeah, exactly. You don't get it. You'll never get it.
One thing that bugs me about this movie, though, is like, I know I like Abomination, and I love Tim Roth. I wish they wouldn't have used him this movie, so they could have used him actually in the MCU. I love him. He's one of my favorite actors.
He's a great actor.
I love that actor so much. But
it makes me sad. What would you want him to play?
Who is the guy that plays "You Dropped a Building on My Face"? I think that would have been a cool role for him.
Oh, Rumlow or Crossbones.
Yes, exactly. I think that would have been a dope Tim Roth character. Or
you did a good job though.
Yeah. Or what's his name? Oh no. I'll tell you later. It's not going to come to me, of course, while we're recording. I'll think about it. But yeah, that's the only other complaint I can think about this.
God, movie. Mikey, you're the one that's making the show go long.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. In all honesty,
not all our tangents. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. No, that
Universal.
Oh yeah, no, I'm teasing. I'm just joking. Yeah.
I know.
I like this movie. I'll probably buy it on Blu-ray for sure. I miss putting a disc into a thing to watch it. I miss doing that, and I'm kind of sad that I didn't buy like my PlayStation and Xbox that had disc drives. Like, because I there is something like it's the same thing as like I put on a record this morning as I was having my morning caffeine and doing some computer work, and it was like, yeah. Like that just feels like cathartic. You know what I mean? To like actually physically do something. And like, I don't know, like I might be weird, but physical media, man, I hope it doesn't die completely.
That's how I am with books. So I get it.
Yeah. I think everybody has some sort of analog thing that they still love. I personally hate discs nowadays So I think my Blu-ray rating is going to be a lot more hard to get up there.
Yeah.
But I do get that. Like whipping out an old Nintendo 64 or something and playing Duck Hunt. But
yeah, or even just
know.
like, like looking at all my graphic novels on the shelf and, a couple of novels and being like, like looking at, a binding of a book, it immediately evokes an emotion.
Yeah.
Same type of thing. Like when you look at like your Blu-ray collection, you happen to catch sight of one of them, or maybe you're looking through and you're like, you know what? I want to watch that. Like you don't get that with streaming services. You know what I mean? And like you really have to look for something to watch, in my opinion. Like, whereas the best stuff to me is the stuff I've already experienced a lot of the time until something new becomes another one of my favorites type thing. But anyways, we'll have to figure out a special rating for you, Mikey. Like, ratings are dumb in general. The newest Thor's not getting great reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and I just don't really care.
Really?
We're going to see it tomorrow morning. We're going to see it tomorrow morning,
excited.
And I have no expectations.
I'm very excited.
While we're on the topic, actually, we'll save it. We'll save it for the next episode. We're 54 minutes in, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Gentlemen, why don't you sign off?
See you.
So long.
Do you want people to be able to find you?
Oh, I was
really,
like,
it was really dynamic the way we did that.
Yeah, I'm like,
you could find me on Twitter at iRyanDalton. You can find me on Instagram at Ryan Dalton, RyanDaltonWrites.com. My latest book, This Last Adventure, is available wherever your favorite bookstore is.
Yep.
And Mikey doesn't want to be found. No one loves you, Mikey, and neither do I. No, I'm just kidding. I don't like Blu-rays. No, I'm
like the Hulk.
Leave me alone.
So you're simultaneously like the Hulk and what was the other guy?
Extremely aggressive. I am the Hulk and Obi-Wan put together.
Okay. Yeah, and somehow, exactly.
I'm like
all right.
a Zen
Anakin, you wouldn't
muscle
like me when I'm angry.
Proceeds to destroy
Hello,
him.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. I just thought of a very dark joke, but I'm not going to say it. All right.
Do it.
Say goodbye. Say goodbye, gentlemen. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Well, once again, thank you so much for showing up today. I really, really appreciate it. Again, if this is your first time here, consider subscribing. I know that's the thing that all the YouTubers do. Everyone's asking to sub. The fact of the matter is that it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, and who knows, you might even see a video every now and then that you actually like or may be interested in. Not only that, I do a bunch of stuff, so make sure you check all the information down in the description down below. We got podcasts, we got Let's Plays, we got all kinds of stuff for all kinds of fandoms. So make sure you check that out. I would seriously, seriously appreciate it, and I would love to see you around here more. I'm Gabriel Fast. I will always be the wannabe critic.